Welcome, everyone, to another candidate forum from the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley. My name is Barb Headrick, and I'll be your moderator for this first session of District 11 House candidates for the North Dakota State Legislature. We'd like to thank the City of Fargo for providing the lovely forum in the City Commission Chamber, and also for streaming this live on the City of Fargo's government PEG TV channel, TV 56. And this recording will be posted on the League of Women Voters Red River Valley Facebook page and YouTube page as well. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. If you'd like to learn more about the League, please visit our website or find us on Facebook. The League of Women Voters sponsors candidate forums to provide the public with this opportunity to hear from the candidates on issues important to members of the public, which is where our questions come from. The League, as a nonpartisan organization, does not support or oppose any political party or candidate. And the voter views expressed in each forum are those of the candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters will post complete unedited recordings of the forums, and editing is authorized only for official media reporting. Excerpts or edited clips of the candidate forums may not be used for partisan or political purposes. Tonight, with our first candidate forum, each candidate will be getting questions that have been submitted by members of the public, and they get submitted on a card brought to me. We do check them for clarity and any repetition, so sometimes we will ask two questions at once. Every candidate will get 1 minute to answer the question, as well as having 1 minute for an opening statement and 1 minute for a closing statement. So about 5 minutes left to go in our time. I will stop asking any more questions and move to closing statements. So we will start now with opening statements with Liz Conmey.
Very good. Thank you for hosting this, and thank you for coming to watch this. I'll start with a little bit of my background. I'm an NDSU grad. I grew up on a farm in northern North Dakota. I went to the University of St. Thomas for a master's degree. My professional career, I have worked in journalism, corporate communications, and most recently as a professor at MSUM. I've served on several community boards, from Essentia Patient Advisory Board to school boards, and I'm currently on the Audubon Dakota board. For the last 20 years, I have lived in Fargo's District 11. My 4 kids grew up there. 2 of them have left North Dakota, and 2 of them are still here. I'd like them to all be here, and that's part of the reason I'm running. I feel North Dakota isn't offering the things that my kids and other people's kids can find in other states. We can do better here. And that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you. Gretchen Dobrovich. Hang on. We get it recycled here. Yeah. All right. Try again, Gretchen.
Good evening. My name is Gretchen Dobrovich, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley for inviting me here this evening for this candidate forum. I was born and raised in farm and ranch in southwest North Dakota in Slope County. I've lived in Fargo for over 25 years now, and I have my undergraduate degree as a Bachelor of Social Work from Minot State University, and I have a Master of Public Health from NDSU. I have served District 11 in the North Dakota House of Representatives since 2016. Since that time, I have been voted by my peers to be the minority caucus leader. caucus chair, and I've done that since 2018. During session, I serve on the Human Services Committee and the Agriculture Committee, and my interim committees are Human Services, Health Services, and Natural Resources. And I live with my husband, Eric, in District 11.
Thank you. Carter Eisinger. Oh, wait. Got it. Got it?
Alrighty, looks like we're good to go. Yes, like you said, my name is Carter Eisinger. Thank you so much, League of Women Voters, for hosting us. It's great to get in front of an audience and talk about ourselves and what we're going to represent a little bit. So I'm going to continue the background of being at NDSU. I'm a current NDSU student with double majors in mechanical and electrical engineering. And as an engineer, the way I approach problems is to look at every facet of a problem and figure out the best way to solve it. I see running for state representative as sort of a civic duty. What I want to do is represent the people of my district in the best possible way that looks at the problems that face our district and our state from every possible angle and solve those with the best possible solution. I believe in individual liberty, and as a rule of thumb, I believe we should return power to the states and to the people, and that's what you'll get with me as a representative representing District 11.
Brad Leeser.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Brad Leeser. I'm originally from Illinois, moved to the Fargo, Moorhead area about 40 years ago, lived in Moorhead initially, moved to Moorhead about 4 years ago. I'm married. I have 2 grown kids who've stayed in this area. I've got 6.5 grandkids, I guess 7.5 grandkids. I should count the other one. And 1.5 meaning that my daughter-in-law is expecting. I've served in a number of capacities. I've been on the board of the American Cancer Society. I've been in the Boy Scouts on several different positions on the council, district, and local, even as a scoutmaster. I've been on the Moorhead Park Board, Advisory Board for 6 years. And I'm on the board presently of a charity called Join Hands North Dakota, which is an internationally focused charity based in Bismarck. I've also had foster care in our home. We had Vietnamese refugees in our home for many years, and their families are still part of my family.
Thank you. For the first question, Gretchen, we'll start with you. What makes you the most qualified candidate in this race?
Thank you. I believe what makes me the most qualified person to run this race is my experience. I have several years' experience in leadership in the legislature, doing the job. I have leadership work experience, leading organizations and training new leaders for organizations. I have had success in passing bills that improve quality of life for North Dakotans, as well as being support to bills that are aimed at improving quality of life for people living in North Dakota.
Thank you. Carter?
Yeah. So the reason I believe I'm one of the most qualified candidates on the stage is due to a few things. One of those is my experience in Student Senate at NDSU, where as a representative representing my constituents, my student constituents, I was able to work on bills that would better our university and better the college for those constituents. I've also been working very hard this election cycle to connect with my voters. We've been doing an incredible amount of door knocking. And through those conversations, I've been able to find out what the people in my district care about. One of those things I found is property taxes, and I won't go into that too in depth right now. But by being able to talk to my constituents, I know what the issues are that they face. And as an engineer, I can use my problem-solving skills to help solve those issues with some of the tools that we have available with the state government.
Brad?
Well, I believe that I am the most qualified here, maybe with Carter as an equal, because first of all, I support the Constitution of the United States and of North Dakota, and I believe we should follow that in all aspects. Secondly, I've been involved in business all of my adult life. And I don't just push paper. I handle very complex matters that require mediations, and I travel all over the country to fix these problems. I'm involved in medical malpractice claims. I've also been involved in situations with my church and community and civic affairs that have been very touchy at times as well. I know how to solve problems. I'm a problem solver. And I've had a lot of experience as well in the Moorhead Park Board, which is a little bit different than how the Fargo Park Board works. The Moorhead Park Advisory Board has less power. But we've still had to get things done over in Moorhead for the Park Board. So that's how I believe I am, among other things, qualified for this job.
Thank you. Liz?
Why I'm qualified? Well, I think experience, education, life, all of those things prepares you to be in office. But first, you need commitment. And I'm enormously committed to my neighborhood and my district. My education background makes me acutely aware of the problems we're having with finding teachers, recruitment, and interfering with our children's curriculums. As a board member of Audubon, Dakota, I'm really proud of work we've done in urban initiatives to make our outdoor spaces better for our community. I also think being a working mom who took care of aging parents and worked and raised 4 kids all at one time gives you great insight into the challenges of the families in my community and what they need in order to have a better life. North Dakota's well-being is my priority, and especially my community's. Thank you.
Thank you. For this next question, we start with Carter, and I'm already going to combine a couple of different questions here. What do you believe is the primary role of government, and do you see that as including the state government spending time on such issues as critical race theory, transgender issues, banning cities from having plastic bag bans, or banning cities from mask mandates?
Well, that's a lot of questions to answer in one, so I guess I'll have to answer in such a blanket of form as well. I believe that the government has many different levels. There's the federal level of government, the state level, the county, and even the local. I believe each level of government should have different areas in which they have control over. So a few of those, maybe the state government's place isn't to regulate those things, but maybe it's the place of the county or city government. Overall, my policy is individual liberty. I want people to have as much liberty to do what they can as possible, as long as it doesn't involve hurting another person.
Thank you. Brad?
Yeah, that's a big chunk to respond to. The purpose of government, we are told in the Constitution, is to protect our rights. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and governments were created to protect those rights. That's the first principle of government. Everything else is subservient to that. And I don't believe the government should take care of our every need. I do think the government has a role in our lives, and it could be and should be a positive role. Critical race theory, I find that disturbing because I believe that all men are created equal, and women, and I don't see a need to divide by racial boundaries. I want us to join hands, as that one charity is that I'm involved with, and to be sons and daughters of God together and not fight each other over trivial things like race. As far as other items that were mentioned there.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
Well, I think other items that are mentioned there, they can be addressed one by one, but they all go back down to personal freedom and personal liberty. That's one of my major planks as well, is liberty, life liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Liz?
Personal freedom, unless you're a woman in North Dakota. Government is not business. Government is government, and it's there to serve the people, not to make money. We have $8 billion in our legacy fund, and we have needs in North Dakota that aren't being met. So I feel our government needs to get out of business and into the part of being a good governing body. Cities should self-determine if they want plastic bags, if they want to recycle, whatever they want to do. The state should not be dictating to our cities. I'm missing the rest of the questions. What else was there? Oh, CRT does not exist in North Dakota, and yet we have wasted time, energy, and money in order to pass a law against it. We may as well have a law against pigs flying, and then maybe get a phone that we can phone in and say, I've seen pigs flying in North Dakota. It simply doesn't exist, and the fact that we've wasted time on it is really sad.
Gretchen?
So the primary role of government, each level of government, federal, state, local, county, tribal, has its own role, and they all work in tandem. Ultimately, I believe in self-determination and local control. And throughout my history as a legislator, I have seen multiple times where local control has been taken away, where the state has, the supermajority in the state has made decisions that impact us on the individual level within our communities. And I've seen where the federal government has done the same thing. And so to me, it's really important to be focusing on self-determination and local control. As far as banning the ban on plastic bags, that's an example of lack of local control. That should be up to communities whether they want to do that, not the state. As far as critical race theory, again,
Finish your thought.
a lot of time and energy that could have been spent focusing on real North Dakota issues was wasted on a boogeyman that does not exist in our public school system, K through 12.
Thank you. Next question. I'm again got multiple cards here. I'm going to try to put together a little bit. I think this will be a little bit easier to put together. It was Brad. We start with you. What will you do to prevent gun violence in our state? Would you support common sense gun laws, including red flag laws, as among the things to reduce gun violence?
Well, first of all, there's no way that we can stop gun violence. Let's just be real honest about it. We can reduce it, but it's not going to stop. Even countries that supposedly ban guns have gun violence. So the question is, what do we do with what we have? I'm a supporter of the right to bear arms. I'm a member of the Second Amendment Foundation. And North Dakota has a very low gun violence rate. Our murder rate, we had like 32 murders in the state. That's 32 too many. Only half of those were guns. Half of those involved guns. So we are 13th from the bottom of violence. Many states are much worse than we are. So I don't see that as a major problem. We have the right to keep and bear arms. And red flag laws have one major problem, and that is that a judge with limited information can take our guns away. I believe that we should have the right to keep and bear arms, and if there's a process to take some gun away from somebody, if they're a felon or if they are known to be mentally disturbed, that's one thing. But just because they may have a gun in the house and had an argument with their wife or their sibling or a neighbor should not be a basis to have guns taken away.
Thank you. Liz?
I'm a gun owner. I have hunted since I was a little girl on a farm. We have guns in our house. They're locked up. They're treated responsibly. But yet I support some sort of control over guns. Red flag laws are great. If they can prevent someone from being injured or killed by a gun, they are certainly worth using. And I don't think a judge takes that lightly when he makes that decision. We also should be able to control who's buying the guns. And I would even go a step further and say registering guns is not a bad idea. But most importantly, I think we need training. I was trained when I was young on gun safety. I think gun safety is hugely important, and anyone who buys a gun should know how to use it correctly and how to store it correctly.
Thank you. Gretchen?
I too am in support of the Second Amendment. I have no issues with it. Interestingly, when it was written, the only guns available to us were muskets. And so when that law was written, it wasn't written for what we're experiencing now. I do support red flag laws. Violence against women is a public health epidemic in the United States, and women are very often the victims of gun violence. And with red flag laws, there is total due process by the judiciary system, so guns are not just automatically taken away. I've also lost people that I love in my life who've taken their own life using firearms. And so that's another opportunity for us to save lives with red flag laws. I'm in favor of background checks. We have to have background checks. I'd have one to be a foster parent when I was a foster parent. So I think there's no reason for us not to increase background checks, particularly when a large percentage of guns are sold at gun shows where background checks don't occur.
Carter?
So the Constitution, both of the United States and of North Dakota, is the foremost governing document that defines the government, the structure of those government entities. A very critical part of both of those constitutions is the right to keep and bear arms. As such, if the government were to break this contract, they're illegitimate. I don't believe there's any reason why the government should be allowed to infringe upon that right. Sure, people can go and take gun safety classes. I've done so myself, and I think it's a great idea. But should the government mandate it? I don't think so. When both the Second Amendment and the Constitution of North Dakota were created, the people that wrote those documents understood the value of populace that is allowed to carry weapons, whether that's for hunting or for protecting yourself. I believe that's one of the biggest reasons why North Dakota has a very large, or very small percentage of gun-related violence is because of the threat of others who will protect those who are unarmed and will protect themselves. I believe that is the key as to why we don't have more gun violence. So no, I don't want to take away more guns.
Thank you. Next question, we start back in with Liz. How do you propose fixing child care access and cost problems in North Dakota?
Well, that's a big one. Child care is a huge problem, and it's not just child care, it's an economic problem for North Dakota. We know we have to have child care in order for the parents to go to work and be productive. I think we need to somehow provide supplemental pay for the people who work in child care. We need to have some sort of scholarships or some sort of education program to train people who work in child care. And we need to value those people that are working in child care. $11 an hour, they can get anywhere else. And most of the people that work in child care are committed to kids. So that's a part of it. We need to respect and expand the opportunities for people to work in child care.
Thank you. Gretchen?
Thank you for the question. Childcare is one of the issues that I hear frequently from the people that I work for in District 11. And in looking at how childcare costs and lack of childcare access are addressed in other parts of the country as well as in other countries, it boils down to either subsidizing the child care providers or a subsidy to parents to be able to provide that child care. There are no other models that I've been able to find that have been successful. One thought that I do have is the facilitation of community-based services, bringing community members together in their communities to identify solutions within their own community. One of the things that I've learned working with people to solve issues that are community-wide is that solutions are in the community. They're not always in Bismarck. They're not always in Washington, D.C. They're not always in this chamber that we're in right now. And when we can bring people together and facilitate those conversations, people can come up with their own solutions as well.
Thank you. Carter?
So I think this is a great question because I don't have children myself, but from what I understand, this is a huge issue that a lot of people face. And I think there's a lot of different ways to attack this problem. I don't think the best method is to immediately throw money at a problem. What I want to do as your elected representative is look at this problem from every possible angle. Is it regulations that are overbearing? Is it different requirements that a childcare business has to meet in order to provide childcare? Why are people not going into childcare? Do they not enjoy working with children, or is it the pay? It could be any of these problems, and I don't know that I've seen a one-size-fits-all solution to this. Usually when the government says they have a one-size-fits-all solution, it's probably not going to solve any of the problem it's trying to solve. I have a sister who actually works in the childcare industry on the other side of the river, and although that's not the same as North Dakota, from what I understand, it's very difficult to start a childcare business and to keep it running, and that could be part of the reason why it's really difficult to find affordable childcare.
Thank you. Brad?
Well, there are a lot of hoops to jump through to start up a child care business. I spent some time just recently talking to a person who's in our district who runs a daycare in her home, and we went over a lot of the problems, a lot of the concerns, and we came to one very obvious conclusion, and that is there's no easy answer. Part of the problem is the general workforce issues that we have due to the economic problems we have as a result of what's happened in Washington the last few years. That's part of the problem. That's not the entire problem. Part of the problem is lack of proper pay for the workers, but a lot of daycare workers don't have employees. The person I talked to has, I think, 7 kids, she said, in her daycare, and she doesn't have any employees. So employment isn't necessarily the issue either, but it's a multifaceted issue. It's going to require multifaceted solutions. I'll be honest with you, I don't have a solution for it, but I think we can work together on different levels and help to solve the issue.
Thank you. Next question, the fifth one, we start with Gretchen. What are your views on term limits for North Dakota legislature and why?
I believe we already have term limits with elections every 4 years. And our government in the United States and in our state and our local level is designed to be a government by the people, for the people, and by people engaging in their government, we will have term limits.
Thank you. Carter?
In November, there's actually going to be a measure on the ballot to determine exactly this. So I'm really looking to see what the people of North Dakota decide, whether to have term limits or not. I think no matter what my opinion is, I'm not even entirely sure. I want what the people in my district want, and I'm happy to let them show up to the polls and tell me exactly the way they want me to vote on that issue, or to think on that issue.
Brad?
I was going to mention the same thing, and this is going to be on the ballot, and so this really isn't an issue that we have, as legislators, have any input on, other than maybe the bully pulpit. But nonetheless, I actually tend to agree with Ms. Dobrovich. I think that the people should be the people that term limit people in government. However, we do have term limits on the President of the United States. Other states have had term limits. I don't view this as a major issue either way. I think North Dakota is going to keep working and doing fine without it. I tend to lean toward being in favor of not having term limits, but I don't have strong feelings on this either way. Ideally, the people will term limit the legislators who need to be term limited.
Thank you. Liz?
I agree with Gretchen as well. Voters need to show up in order to enforce term limits, though. So I think we could have better civic outreach, better engagement, better education to get more of our citizens to vote. And then maybe term limits won't be talked about so much.
Thank you. Got another question about one of the initiated measures. We'll start with that one with Carter. What are your views on legalizing marijuana in North Dakota and why?
Yeah, thank you. So I think this question squarely falls into the category of individual liberty. My policy is if it's something that's not hurting someone else and it's not something you necessarily actively need to be stopped from doing yourself in order to do that, I'm not opposed to it. Again, this isn't something that's going to be coming up in the legislature because this is something that's on the ballot this November. If the people decide they want to legalize marijuana, all right, that's on the people to decide that. If the people decide that they don't want to legalize marijuana, all right, we as a state have decided. So, thank you.
Brad?
I agree with Carter. I'm all for personal liberty and freedom. I have never used marijuana. I don't ever intend to use marijuana. I don't use alcohol, but I don't want to outlaw alcohol because it causes so much crime in our country. If you want to get rid of violence, get rid of alcohol, not guns. Alcohol is the root of so much evil in this society. I've talked to a prosecutor and said he'd be out of a job if it wasn't for alcohol. Now, again, I'm not advocating making alcohol illegal, but I'm saying there's a double standard between marijuana and alcohol. If somebody wants to use marijuana, it's okay with me. Just don't do something stupid and legal in the process. Thank you.
Liz?
I support legalizing marijuana. It's in our state. It's here, and we're getting no revenue from it being here. It's frankly going to other states. If we do pass the initiated measure, I believe the state should regulate it so that it's safe, so that it's well marketed, so that it's labeled. And we should look to other states because the other states that have legalized marijuana have already gone through the problems of making it legal. And I think we have a lot to learn from them. And I especially think that the tax revenue that's projected would be a great benefit to North Dakota. So yeah, I'm for it.
Thank you. Gretchen?
I am a big fan of the initiated measure process in North Dakota. It allows the citizens of North Dakota to voice their beliefs about large issues that we are facing as citizens in North Dakota. So I am happy that this is on going to be on our ballots again. I am in support of the legalization of marijuana for recreational use. One of the advantages I see is that there has been challenges in the medical marijuana system in North Dakota, where many people who would be eligible have not been able to get their cards due to preconceived notions by the medical system. And it would also be economic growth for our state. And as Liz said, it's already here. People are going to other states and purchasing it. And so North Dakota is missing out on the opportunity to regulate its use in the state as well as tax its use in the state.
Thank you. Next question, we start with Brad. Does public education in North Dakota work? What needs to change? And does that include the legislature acting to address the teacher shortage?
Well, again, the teacher shortage is a subset of, to some extent, a subset of the national labor problems that we have. Restaurants are closed because there aren't enough workers. Factories closed because there aren't enough workers, and we're short of school teachers as well. I'm a big proponent of homeschooling. I'm a big proponent of cooperative schooling, which I understand is not appropriate, illegal in North Dakota. I am in favor of that. Let people band together and educate their children. That would take some pressure off of the public school system. I think we have a good public school system overall. Certainly it can be improved. Everything in the state can be improved. Everything in our lives can be improved. But we have a good system, but I think we should expand it and have all options on the table. I don't think throwing money at it is the solution to the problem. And if we do throw money at it, where's the money going to come from? It's not the legacy fund, because that's set aside and earmarked wisely for future use. We can tap into it, but we don't want to just get into the legacy fund and throw money around because it's there.
Thank you. Liz?
Wait, what was the question again?
Does public education in North Dakota work? What needs to change? Does that include the legislature acting to address the teacher shortage?
Yes, it works. 4 of my kids went to school here. They're happy, great, well-educated adults. The problem is that our education is going downhill. We're ranked 25th in the nation as far as quality education. And we can do better than that. And yes, we do have to put some money into it. Teachers are leaving. We have like 120 teacher vacancies. There's schools that aren't teaching advanced math and other advanced classes because they can't find teachers. Teachers don't have benefits that they need. And we need to make their teaching profession competitive in North Dakota in order to make our education quality. And we also need to get our legislature out of education by mandating what can and cannot be researched in our higher ed institutions. We have lost research funding. So yes, we need to support K through 12 and our higher ed, and we need to keep dictating what can and can't be taught.
Thank you. Gretchen?
I do believe that our K through 12 public education works in North Dakota. I am a little biased. I'm a graduate of that system, and my husband teaches in that system. I do also believe in choice. We do have private schools that if people choose to go to, they can send their children to private schools in North Dakota. And if people want to homeschool, they have that opportunity to homeschool as well. So people do have choice in North Dakota. As far as the challenges that our education system is facing, when I visit with teachers, one of the biggest issues is the mental health of students and the behavioral health of students, and that the schools aren't fully equipped to manage that because teachers are trying to teach and manage behavior and mental illness at the same time. And so providing resources for our schools would be very helpful. One of the other pieces that I hear from educators is that students aren't coming to school ready to learn and ready to participate. And part of that is related to mental health and behavioral issues as well, and lack of preschool and childcare.
Thank you. Carter?
Yeah, so like my running mate Brad said, I definitely think there's room for improvement, as there are with most things in our great state. Not everyone knows this, but there's actually a provision in the North Dakota State Constitution that calls for the legislature to provide a free system of education. K through 12, of course, doesn't have to be free beyond that. So I do believe it is important for the legislature in North Dakota to ensure that these public schools are being taken care of. Now, how do we solve that problem? Well, that's a big question. I told you earlier that as an engineer, I need to look at a problem from a lot of different angles. Don't just throw a single solution at it. Is the solution money? Maybe that would help. Sometimes that causes issues. Is the problem that we need to get parents more involved? Maybe that's it. There could be a lot of different ways to help solve this problem. And in fact, maybe we have to use many of those solutions together. So in a nutshell, yes, I think there could be improvements. Is the state legislature mandated to do that? Yes. But the exact method might be many and varied, and it's probably not just to throw money at it.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start again with Liz, and I'm going to read this as it's written. When it says mine, it's not referring to me. Okay? My property taxes are steadily increasing, proportionally more than the value of my home. What thoughts do you have on managing this?
Well, there's been a proposal submitted to lower property taxes by the state funding more of local education. And I think that's a great idea because we have taken away funding, and that's why property taxes go up, mostly is to fund schools. So with the state kicking in more again, your property taxes should go down. And that I also think that people on fixed incomes should have some sort of property tax freeze or rebate, or especially lower income people, so that they can stay in their homes.
Gretchen?
I would agree with Liz. I think that a property tax rebate or a property tax freeze for people living under a certain income would be really helpful to low income and older adults in North Dakota. Also, the legislature honoring its obligations to fund schools, social services, and many of the other things that we are constitutionally bound to fund will help cut property taxes by cities and communities not having to make up that difference by increasing their property taxes.
Thank you. Carter?
So when I first decided I would run for office, the first two issues that I thought to run on, one was protecting the integrity of our Constitution, and number two was reducing taxes, specifically property taxes. And so as I've gotten to meet people in our district, we've had a number of meet and greets, we've gone door to door. I have talked to many people. It's actually the most common issue I've encountered is people that are concerned about their property taxes. So yes, as your representative, I absolutely want to figure out ways to lower those. So imagine my surprise when halfway through the campaign trail, I discovered that there were some legislators in Bismarck who decided to actually put this proposal, put this together into a proposal. So that is something that once I've seen the bill and make sure I agree with it, it's something I will wholeheartedly support.
Thank you. Brad?
Yes, I agree as well. As I've been door to door talking with people, almost everyone that has a conversation, some people just go to the door and say hi and that's it. But when the conversation comes up, property tax is always first, almost always first on their mind. And secondly, is a concern, dare I even say a fear of special assessments. Those two things need to be addressed. And I am, like Carter, would be looking with favorable eyes upon a bill that in some way was able to transfer funds around so that the property taxes would be under control. I would not be against a cap when somebody retires at a certain age on capping their property tax so it doesn't go up. This is a real problem. I also believe that state and local governments overall should be more efficient so they use the monies wisely so that taxes don't have to go up. I know that a lot of effort goes into that happening, but I think that's a real key point is making local governments more efficient so that the taxes can stay somewhat lower.
Okay. We're going to do one more question before we go to closing statements. Homeless, and we will, let's see. We start with Gretchen. Homelessness is growing in North Dakota. What can the legislature do to deal with this problem?
Thank you for the question regarding homelessness and how the state legislature can address the issue. I believe in the dignity and worth of all people, especially those who are living here in North Dakota that I work for. And so finding solutions for homelessness is really important to me. Part of the issue is working on a state and local level to find solutions for affordable housing. We have housing going up all the time in our community, but it isn't affordable housing. And so people who are working at minimum wage or just above minimum wage aren't able to access housing without working multiple jobs. And I also think that we need to find a way to increase the number of mental health practitioners. We have money and we have systems in place to deliver behavioral health services across North Dakota. What we don't have is practitioners. And so finding solutions to get practitioners here in North Dakota would be very helpful. And there's a variety of different ways we can do that.
Thank you, Carter.
Yeah, out of all the problems that we've discussed so far, homelessness might very well be one of the most nuanced ones with many, many reasons. I would say they've got a different reason for every individual who experiences something like that. There are organizations such as the New Life Center that do a lot of work to help solve these problems. And one thing that organizations like them and others have discovered, such as in San Diego, is that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Some of it involves money. Some of it involves going to people and helping them understand how to get a job, how to keep jobs like that, how to become educated so they can potentially get a better job. That doesn't apply to everyone, but the point is that there's so many different solutions that, yes, I think there are things the state legislature can do to address it, but one of them is not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Brad?
Yeah, I again agree with Carter. This is a multifaceted problem that cannot be easily solved, and throwing money at it in and of itself is not going to solve it. We do need more counselors, and not necessarily just professional counselors, but maybe mentors from the community. Reach out to retired people and people that are willing to help out and teach someone how to properly dress and wear the proper clothes for a job interview, and to teach them how to handle money. We have alcohol dependency as a major issue in homelessness and drug use. These can all be addressed in various ways, but we can't just build homes and say we've solved the problem. That's been shown to be a failure in other cities. But getting the counseling along the way, providing them a method to get into the workforce, to start getting some money, to get ahead, that's what we need to strive for, is to help people become more independent and more self-sufficient. It is not an overnight event, it's a process. So with that, my time is up, and I'll give it back to you.
Thank you. Liz?
First and foremost with the homeless population is we need to make sure they're safe. And that means getting them into a house where there's food, clothing, shelter. Once they're safe, then we need those resources available, mental health resources, veterans resources, kids. We have 1,200 people on any given night in Fargo that are without homes, and about half of those are children. They are not learning. You can't go to school when you don't know where you're going to be the next night. So we need to provide the resources from a state level and let the communities use those resources and figure out what's the best approach. And yes, there'll be many different approaches, but we need to support that because homelessness is not going to just go away.
Thank you. This concludes the question and answer portion of this forum. I want to thank all the candidates for participating, for all the audience members for submitting questions. Thank you to our league volunteers who've been collecting questions and timing for us, as well as a City of Fargo employee who's running the cameras. I would like to encourage all of you to learn more about your candidates, and to help you with this, the League of Women Voters is partnering with the Forum Communications to present vote411.org. This is a voter's guide available for races across North Dakota, and you can learn more about candidates' positions and descriptions of the two ballot initiatives that are also up for vote statewide. You can go to vote411.org or look for the voter's guide on any Forum Communication news website. So starting with closing statements, again, 1 minute, and Carter, you get to go first.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this on, and all the volunteers. It's really good to be able to get out here and just talk in a fashion that allows us to compare what we believe to our voters. Just want to reiterate again that I look at this as sort of a civic duty. What I want to do is, going to Bismarck, I want to work for the people of my district and the people of my state and work to make this a better place. One way that you can see I've already been doing that is by going door to door. We've been hitting the doors hard. I've talked to hundreds of people, been able to hear the issues, and on every single card I've handed out that has my phone number and email, and I'd love to hear what you think. So as someone who's connected with the people, someone who has been in the community, I've lived in this community for almost 17 years. I want to go to Bismarck to represent you to the best of my abilities. Thank you.
Brad?
Well, I'm at the end of my career with what I do for a living, and I'm looking forward to retirement, and I'm not looking forward to a career in politics. But I am willing to serve a few years, maybe a couple of terms, in the State House. I do not want to become a career politician. I've had lots of business background. I know how to solve problems. I know how to get things done. I do it every single day. And I know how to interact with people. And I know how to read bills and laws. And I understand the ins and outs of government overall. I will support the constitutions of the United States and the state of North Dakota. I will listen to the people of this district, and I will do what's best for the people of this district and listen to their concerns, and especially those that have to do with their property taxes, their income taxes, and I've promised never to vote for a bill that will raise taxes on the people of my district or in the state of North Dakota.
Liz?
Thank you. And thank you to the League. You guys rock. It's great. So wishing for change doesn't make it happen, and that's why I'm running. North Dakota is falling behind when we're up against other states. Last year, 4,000 people left our state, despite our population growing for a decade before that. And we had 30,000 jobs, and yet they're leaving. North Dakotans' well-being should be the priority of our legislature, and it would be my priority. We need quality education, improved access to health resources, women's access to reproductive health, and incentives to address climate change. I'm committed, I'm capable, and I care. And by seeing you all here, I'm optimistic because you care as well. I believe North Dakota can be very legendary again, and I would very much appreciate your support.
Gretchen?
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley for hosting this evening. Thank you very much. I think this is a great opportunity for voters to get to know the candidates that they'll be voting for or maybe already have voted for with mail-in voting. It's been an honor to work for the people of District 11 since 2016, and I very much hope to continue to do that work. Over the years, I've taken the phone calls and responded to the emails, visited with people at the doors, and worked on various different issues. Part of being an elected official is not just writing bills and voting on bills. There's a lot of constituent casework that goes along with it as well, things that you don't necessarily get recognized for. And that's part of the work that I love to do the best is being a servant for the people that I work for. And so I'd like to thank the people of District 11, and I hope to continue to work for them.
Thank you. And let's get everybody give a round of applause, but then feel free to ask them more questions. We'll take a few minutes here and set up for the next forum.